But food is emotion, right? Food is how you grew up. Food is comfort. Food is reward or punishment, right? Depending on the person and how they see it. And so much of my work when I'm working with changing somebody's diet is about really just trying to understand what their relationship with food is, what food means to them, how their early life experiences or their family life, right, really shapes how they are, what they crave, how they view their diet, how they view meal times.
So welcome back to the Late Aesthetics Show, where we go beyond the surface and unpack real health, wellness and longevity. Today's guest is Dr. Zia Stratos, Head of Nutrition and Functional Medicine at Reborne Longevity, which is London's premier concierge clinic for advanced science-backed health span and aesthetics. She holds an MD from Georgetown, an MSc from UCL, and is certified in Walsh nutrient therapy. Her holistic root cause approach blends nutrition, lifestyle, and advanced therapeutics to foster deep, lasting transformation physically, mentally, and energetically. We'll talk through sugar myths, the power of cellular vitality, what longevity means beyond simply living longer, and how aesthetics and internal health really intersect. So Dr. Zia, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so excited for today's conversation. I think the whole field of longevity, functional medicine is quite trendy at the moment. With a trend comes the downside to it, but it also becomes the awareness. And I think a lot more of the general population are more in tune with their health, which is great. So talk me through, how did your career start in functional medicine? Like, where did it all, stem from?
So I think like most functional medicine practitioners, it starts with your own health journey, right? And so for me, definitely, going to university, being pre-med at first and then medical school, but mostly the pre-med, like the intense competition, the long hours studying, the incredible pressure that I felt to be perfect, get perfect grades, to achieve, just had me literally living off of Diet Coke and chewing incredible amounts of gum just to sit in the library and get through those books. And by the time I was applying to medical school, because it's a bit different in the States, you do 4 years. By the time I was applying, I was so sick. I was so unbelievably sick. I could not get out of bed. I had incredible stomach pains. And really, no doctors could help me. Nothing was helping. My mood was on the floor. And the only thing that helped was identifying that actually I was reacting to a lot of different foods and I needed to change my diet. And as soon as I did, everything just got better. And then being in actual medical school and just seeing over and over again, how we were treating patients for heart attacks and amputations for diabetes, and yet in the hospital, we were serving them burgers and fries and Jell-O and sodas.
Yeah.
Just none of it made sense.
That's funny, actually. Like, every time I've been in a hospital and, no one enjoys going into a hospital whatsoever, there's always been, when you go to the cafeteria in a hospital, it's like the most junk food you can possibly find. It's a lot of processed foods. There is very, very little live food that you can get there. So that is a crazy way. I've never really thought about it like that, but that makes total sense.
It's crazy. In the hospital I worked in, there was literally not a fresh fruit or vegetable to be found on the entire hospital grounds. And the doctors were the ones who were even recommending to patients when they were saying like, oh, where can I get some food? They were saying, oh, there's this amazing Chick-fil-A, which is like a Kentucky
fast food.
Yeah, it's a fast food, literally
a
fast food chain. They were like, there's an amazing one that just opened across the street. You should go. And I'm just like, what? What? Literally, you're talking to somebody who is, 250 kilos, who's partner has literally just been amputated for their diabetes. What?
Whoa.
How is nobody else just, on the floor right now like I am?
That is crazy. That's nuts. You studied psychology, right? Before you went to medical school.
Yeah.
There is a big intertwine when it comes to traditional forms of medicine and psychology. How does that approach fit into the way you practice today?
So like everything, just from a nutrition point of view, every time I have a nutrition consultation, I'm, even more food is not just food, right? We don't approach food like it's just something that we use to to fuel ourselves, even though that's what we're told how we should approach food. Food is fuel, but food is emotion, right? Food is how you grew up. Food is comfort. Food is reward or punishment, right? Depending on the person and how they see it. And so much of my work when I'm working with changing somebody's diet is about really just trying to understand what their relationship with food is, what food means to them, how their early life experiences or their family life, right, really shapes how they are, what they crave, how they view their diet, how they view meal times.
It's so true. I think people, for example, that maybe have suffered with their weight and, you know, their weight's fluctuated throughout their adult life, I think sometimes they then have this inbuilt fear when it comes to food, and they associate food with being, you know, if they're at a point where their weight is good, they're happy with it, but they're really scared to, let's say, overeat, or they're scared to eat because they think that it's going to bring them back to the place that they were, which was obviously uncomfortable.
Completely. And there's a huge, you know, again, with social media and everything, there's a really big deprivation mindset around food, right? I mean, the diet industry is a multi-trillion-dollar industry, and it thrives off of this, right? So yes, it's both, you know, how we grow up, our life experiences, and also what is the messages of our society, of our community, and how our environment determines who we are.
Yeah, exactly. And as well, you were brought up in the States, right?
Yeah.
So the way that food's manufactured in the States is very different to how it's manufactured even in the UK, for example. Yep. And every single time I've been to the States, I'm like, why are the portions so big? And like, even, for example, the vegetables, I'm like, why are these like 2-3 times the size? Because these typically genetically modified, right? So I think if you're eating genetically modified foods, those chemicals that are making that food bigger is they're making you bigger.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely genetically modified, the pesticides, you know, pesticides are meant to kill bugs, right?
Yes.
And they also kill our own microbiome. They kill the bugs that keep us healthy, right? The bugs in our intestines. And we're seeing increased links, you know, with pesticides, and definitely diabetes, a lot of these chronic conditions that show up later in life. But now what's really scary is there's some research showing links with autism, right?
Wow.
So conditions that show up. So I have worked a lot with children as well, and children with special needs, autism, ADHD. We're seeing direct links. Studies keep coming out, preservatives, additives, how it's linked to ADHD, how it's linked to autism. So it's very early, and it's those early years that actually are critical for the rest of our lives.
That's so true. And I think as well, children are eating a lot more processed foods, foods from like cans, foods from the freezer.
Pouches, which have no nutrients because they're so processed, even if they're 100% veggies or fruit.
And you're so right. And obviously in the early development years, that's when your brain's developing. That's when you are naturally developing. So you need the right nutrients inside you to be able to develop in the right way.
It sets the nutrition, because nutrition has a direct impact on how your genes are expressed.
Okay.
Right? So nutrition and genetics are one field in itself, right? But whether those genes are expressed or not, that's often determined in those first few years of life.
Okay.
So it literally sets up your genes for the rest of your life in those early years.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're focusing right now, you know, in medicine, it's all about the end result, right? It's all about you're basically at the emergency, you know, room or at the emergency line, and that first concern, you're like, okay, how do we fix it? But we need to go back in time, just into, you know, what are we giving our kids?
Yeah.
Because that's the foundation.
Exactly. We did touch upon people's relationship with food, for example, and things like GLP-1s are now they're very popular. They're used as a method for, you know, successful weight loss. Do you incorporate them into your practice at all, or are you completely against giving patients GLP-1s if, you know, they meet the criteria for them?
No, I think it's a very nuance. There's a lot of nuance around GLP-1s, right? I mean, there's evidence that they really do. Again, we're all such products of our society, and I think that there's a lot of guilting and shaming around obesity and fatness that is just so unfair and so cruel. And these people, you know, they really suffer. And it's not about control. It's not about calories. It's actually been found repeatedly that a lot of times people who are diagnosed with obesity are actually eating less, right? But their metabolism is completely messed up.
Yeah.
Right? Their blood sugar, like their whole regulation system, and the impact of these GLPs on such a person, not only metabolically, but also the mindset, right? Like allowing themselves to feel control over food again can have a very positive impact. So I'm not fully against them. Do I think that there is widespread misuse? Absolutely. And I think that there should never be a GLP-1 prescription without a series of nutrition consultations. And unfortunately, we are not there.
No, this is very, very true. Yeah, there needs to be, because if you can't just, for example, cut down the amount you're eating, but if you're still eating the wrong type of food within that amount that you're consuming, that's not exactly right whatsoever.
It's not going to actually help. You're still kind of in some ways covering up the problem, and you're not addressing the root cause, which is the gut health imbalance, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And we need to remember that GLP-1 is actually something that we naturally are supposed to be producing, right? By the L cells in our intestines. And how do we produce this? By having lots of fiber from lots of whole foods and lots of clean protein. And if we can rebalance our gut microbiome, we can produce our own GLP-1 with or without assistance of a medication, but never a medication on its own, while still continuing to eat McDonald's, just less of it.
Well, that's true. I mean, I read an article a few years ago, and it was like this woman was saying that she managed to lose weight by only eating McDonald's. And like, that was the headline. It was like, I lost, I don't know, let's say half a stone in a week or whatever. All I ate was McDonald's. And it's like, well, that doesn't necessarily mean that McDonald's is healthy. Like, that you could be having a McFlurry and be in a calorie deficit. Your body's naturally going to lose weight, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that is a healthy way to do it. And it's just one of those misleading media.
And it just means that as soon as you stop doing it, as soon as you stop the GLP, or even at a certain point, because your metabolism catches up to you, right? Because your metabolism slows down as the calories go down. And it's the same thing as with these weight loss diets. The Atkins diet, when it became huge, everyone was like, I'm losing so much weight. All of those people ended up gaining the weight back, right? Because as soon as you go back, it's not even you go back to eating fully. You can be eating again the same amount. Your metabolism drops so much from the caloric restriction, because we are human beings made to resist starvation, that eventually you will be eating the same amount and putting on the weight.
Yeah, because your body doesn't know how to process that amount of food anymore. In a way, you kind of like reprogrammed your metabolism. And is there a way to get your metabolism back up to speed? Is there
100%.
How do you do that?
Through a healthy diet and reprogramming your gut microbiome.
And how long does that type of process take?
Oh, wow. I mean, it depends on the person. It's not a one size fits all. But in my patients, I usually say, in somebody who I would say has a very high processed food diet, and we make a change on that, within 2 weeks, you can see a notable improvement in energy.
Yeah.
Energy is usually, or joint pains, or some aches and pains, right? 2 weeks, you start seeing something. For the weight to come off, it depends how metabolically off they were in the first place, right? It depends what their diet looked like in the first place. It could be weeks, it could be months, it could be years, but you want it to be slow.
Yeah.
It's good if it's slow.
Why is it good if you have a slow metabolism then?
If you have a slow, I would know it's not.
Oh, right.
The weight loss. If the weight loss is slow, if that process is slow, it's more manageable.
If you have a fast metabolism, that's a positive, right? Okay. I was going to say, yeah. So that doesn't make any sense. No. But yeah, if you lose the weight gradually, much better.
Yeah.
Because you're able to maintain that, and that will become part of your lifestyle at that point. So how long have you been at Reborne Longevity?
I've been there for a little over a year now.
Fantastic. It's a brilliant place. It's like when you walk in there, you kind of just automatically feel that you want to take care of yourself. And I think every single patient that comes through the door most likely has that type of mindset. We are living longer as a human race. Science and studies do show us that. But are we living longer with more chronic disease than we have before? And if so, what simple things can we, let's say, do to counteract that?
Yes. So is the short answer. We are living longer. So it's our lifespan versus our health span is kind of the way that we talk about it, right? And so, yes, when we talk about longevity, it's not just about adding years to your life. It's about adding healthy years to your life, right? So is there any point of living until 80 if you're in a wheelchair for the last, 40 years?
Yeah.
Or if you're on chronic insulin and you end up getting an amputation and so on. So basic interventions, I mean, as you know, I'm a gut health specialist, right? And why did I go into nutrition after medicine? Is because I felt that medicine was not really healing people, right? Obviously, in certain cases, yes. Obviously, I think Western medicine allopathic medicine has an incredible role when it comes to emergency care, an incredible role when it comes to treating infections, right? Antibiotics and so on. Do I think that the current traditional strategies for treating chronic diseases are treating them? No, I think diet does. For the most part. Lifestyle.
It's even, for example, there's research to show that things like anxiety and depression, a lot of that can actually be controlled by the food that we consume. Because the brain needs food, right? So if you're giving your brain the right fuel, the right food, then surely it's going to function like it should.
So interestingly, Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine, which are like very ancient systems of medicine, much more ancient than allopathic medicine, than Western medicine, they have been saying for thousands of years that the gut is the core of health, right? And now that with research, we've had this whole discovery and papers have, exploded in the past decade, I would say, 15 years on the gut microbiome, we now understand why. Right? We understand that the gut is the biggest barrier that separates kind of the outside world from what goes into our bodies, and that our gut barrier, which is supposed to be really strong and resilient to protect us, is actually very, very thin.
Okay.
It's one cell thick.
Wow.
Our gut barrier, right? So we need to make sure that that barrier is really strong.
Okay.
Right? And that our immune system in our gut is also really strong, so that we're not getting pesticides and they're getting through that gut barrier and our bodies are reacting to them.
Yeah.
Right? So we now know that what keeps that gut barrier strong is the trillions of bacteria that live in our gut.
Okay.
Right? And those bacteria, they eat what we eat. So if we feed them the good stuff, then the good bacteria, the bacteria that have been associated with health and reduced risk of chronic disease, they thrive.
Yep.
And if we eat the processed foods,
it doesn't like that. Yeah.
We kill those, we starve those, and we feed the bacteria associated with the chronic diseases. And by chronic diseases, I'm including depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, autism, ADHD.
That's a really interesting. That's fantastic, because everyone always says the gut's the second brain in the body.
It is.
But it's like when you're pregnant, for example, your baby, whatever nutrition you're eating, your baby's going to be eating from that as well. So you need to make sure that you're giving the right fuel for development. So it's the same, when we get in our adult life, it's the exact same concept.
It's the same concept, is that we have this, we call it a symbiotic relationship with our gut bacteria, right?
Yeah.
And our gut bacteria is responsible, by the way, for producing serotonin.
Yeah.
80% of the serotonin produced by our gut bacteria. Our gut bacteria is what is secreting the molecules to keep that gut barrier strong, to keep our glucose, our sugar levels in line.
Is there any specific foods that you should be, consuming, let's say on a weekly basis, that keeps that gut barrier very healthy?
Plants.
Any plants?
Plants. And not just any specific plants, as many plants as you can get in. Diversity.
Okay.
Right? So diversify your diet, diversify your fruits, your vegetables, your seeds, your nuts, your grains, all of that, because it's the diversity of your diet that determines diversity of your gut bacteria that's linked to good health.
Because then you've got more good bacteria to fight off the bad bacteria. Mm-hmm. Yes, you've got more of a chance, basically.
Exactly. And the bad bacteria secrete toxins that make your gut what we call leaky, right? Plugs holes in your gut, and then these foods, and it can be different foods for different people, can come in, and that's where we see intolerances, because those foods are getting through that gut barrier, triggering an immune response.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then we start feeling crappy in response to those foods. And remember that the gut is not only directly linked to the brain, right, through a nerve, so direct link to the brain, so that response might be a mood problem, but the gut is also directly linked to the skin. There's a gut microbiome and there's also a skin microbiome. And they interact via these immune channels.
Yeah.
So it can come up as acne.
Yeah.
It can come up as rosacea.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. That's interesting. And yes, talk about sugar then, because sugar has been used in Western food now for a long, long time. And I think sugar has been known to be one of the worst things that you can consume in the body. Talk the listeners through, what role does sugar play in the body? Do we really need to be consuming sugar in our diets? And does it have a detrimental effect? How, what really is the impact of sugar?
So sugar has been found, and we talk about sugar, but sugar is kind of just a general term that's being thrown around a lot. And I think it's very confusing for people when you're just saying sugar, because when I'm talking about detrimental, we're talking about the processed forms of sugar, right? We're talking about that white stuff, the powdered stuff, the high fructose corn syrup, which I'm pretty sure is banned here, as we talked about, but found in basically everything in the States that you'll find in the supermarket. But then, people have put so much of this, like, oh, no sugar, that then I've met a lot, particularly of, the younger generation, Gen Z, who are like, oh, I don't eat fruit, too much sugar. But where the sugar comes from is important.
Okay.
And I think, yes, sugar, processed sugar, right? These like new forms of sugar, it has an inflammatory effect in the body. So it is feeding that bad, quote unquote, gut bacteria, right? And then with that, we get all of the repercussions of that. Right, with the leaky gut and the inflammation. Inflammation is basically your body saying, my body feels like it's under attack.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
The other thing that we say why is sugar bad is because eating refined sugar or sugars in general spikes your blood sugar, and we get a big release of insulin.
Yeah.
Right? Because having high blood sugar is very toxic. Right? It's very toxic to our body. So we secrete insulin to bring the blood sugar down.
Okay.
Right? So we can feel good again, our body in homeostasis. But if we're secreting too much insulin over our lives because of too much sugar, eventually we can stop producing enough insulin, and that leads to diabetes.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's where the whole kind of sugar is bad has come in.
Yeah. And so is it true if you eat too much fruit, is that a good thing though? Because is it not just everything in moderation?
100% everything in moderation. I like to think of fruit as the dessert of nature.
Okay.
Right? Because that's what it was, right? When we're animals, 100%, but we're animals, right? And we were originally hunters and gatherers. And let's think, when did we used to eat fruit? When we would forage for it.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. Yeah, and it'd be sweet as
and
well.
And it'd be a lot smaller. It wasn't genetically modified. I don't know if you've actually had. I did, because I'm actually French, and my grandmother lives in the countryside in France. And I remember real raspberries, right?
Yeah, they taste different to supermarket.
They're about a third of the size. They're a third of the size of the ones that I buy from the supermarket, right? And so things like that, even strawberries, wild strawberries are like smaller than they're like half my fingernail, right? And now they're huge, and they stay on the shelf for 3 weeks and they don't change. Real strawberries, when you get them, they go off within 2 hours.
Yeah, there's a difference there.
So there's a massive difference in the fruit that we're having. There's a massive difference in how much and the availability of that fruit. Fruit is also seasonal, I might add, right? Like, what fruit do you find in the winter?
Exactly.
At least in this country.
Yeah, exactly. You don't really at all.
So it's not to say fruit is good or fruit is bad. It's just to say that fruit was the dessert of nature. So let's try and approach it a bit that way.
So you touched upon a good thing. So when it comes to like vegetables, and most people know we should be eating vegetables, then they form a very healthy part of a diet. But is it true that there's a lot less nutrients in vegetables that are grown nowadays because of the quality of the soil than there was, let's say, 20 years ago? And if so, how can we counteract all of that?
Yes. So yes, that is true. Unfortunately, and that's where, how can we counteract it? I would say on a like more theoretical basis, by kind of promoting regenerative farming practices, right? But on a day-to-day, you as an individual, and how I think I'm counteracting it for my family, is I go to the farmer's market.
Yeah.
It is my priority every week. And every patient I see, if they are London-based or even most of the UK, we look up their local farmer's market. Yeah. And most of them say, I don't have one. And I say, yes, you do. They're in every London borough. And they go, no, I don't. And I put in their zip code, and they're like, wait, that's around the corner.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that. I'm like, yeah.
That's actually really true. So I'm like from the north of England, and it's like a big, like more of a farming community, like in Cumbria, and there's loads of farms there. So we're fortunate to have a load of farm shops.
Right.
And if you even go and have the potatoes that you can buy at the farm shop, which are still covered in all the soil, and if you go and buy them in the supermarket, which obviously they're in the plastic packaging, they taste like two different things.
And they are two different things. Nutritionally, they are literally two different things.
Yes, because people view potatoes or they're bad, they're not good for you, they're white carbs, etc., etc.
That brings me into my second pet peeve is macros, right? But carbs, protein, sugar. Why are we talking about food in these terms and not talking about beetroot, cucumber, like actual names of food?
Yes.
Right? When did we start dissecting food into these counterparts?
They call it a potato, it's a carb.
Exactly.
Like, I don't know if I can eat that.
No, and there's a disaster. I mean, in the US, they did this study on children and asked them, what your favorite foods are. And these were mostly children in deprived neighborhoods, and they were coming up with names of brands, food brands.
Really?
KFC. And you're like, okay, but what is this? Showing them, a beetroot. They don't know what that is.
That's crazy. Wow.
So there's this dialogue around the way that we talk about food that is just completely disconnected from nature.
Absolutely. We have touched upon previously, before we started filming, about how a lot of the aesthetics industry is now adopting it, some form of supplementation, some form of functional medicine into their practices, which is great because it makes it, I suppose, more accessible for patients. But functional medicine is very much a specialty of medicine, just like aesthetic medicine is a specialty when it comes to medicine. How do you deal with, every time I go on TikTok, there's new trends. There's a new supplement. Someone is saying, I've taken this supplement. This is what it does for you. You need to make sure you take it. How do you deal with that when you have a patient come to see you in clinic and they tell you, I need X, Y, and Z supplementation? How do you literally educate them that they maybe don't need that? They maybe need something more specific to, their individual needs, and kind of debunk the myths associated.
So I would just say that functional medicine, in my opinion, is not so much a specialty of medicine as an approach.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
An approach to treatment, right? And to how you see your patient. And my particular approach, and I would kind of warn everyone out there, is to say, if you have seen a functional medicine practitioner and what you've come out of it is a list of supplements, like 20 supplements, that is not the real approach to practicing functional medicine, right? Beware anything that comes in a package.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And that applies to foods, that applies to supplements. I'm not saying all supplements are bad, right? I'm saying that there's not a one-size-fits-all for all supplements, like with everything else. Yeah. And so one of the first things that I do when I have a patient come in is we learn how to read ingredients, right? And we learn how to look at packaging and differentiate on the packaging. And so that applies as much to food and how we're going to go through the dietary intervention as to supplements, because supplements are not being regulated, right? The dosages are not controlled. They're not individualized. We don't know the reaction. There's not enough research, right? Because they're not regulated on the majority of these supplements. The brands, you can trust certain brands. I have my kind of ones that I trust more, but how much do we really know?
Yeah.
So it is adopting, I don't want to fearmonger here, but it is adopting kind of a questioning, a curiosity around this whole idea of what is being sold to us.
Yeah, we don't know. Like, we really don't know. We just see it. We think, let's take some B12, or we'll see it, let's take some zinc. I've heard, zinc's good for you. Magnesium's great for you. Let's take some of that. And it's like, well, do you understand what you're actually consuming? And I think you need to go see a specialist such as yourself. They can actually sit down, find out about your current lifestyle, and then give you recommendations based upon your answers and tests at the end of the day.
And that's where, this Walsh nutrient therapy, this approach that I did, which was kind of an advanced nutrient protocol that deals a lot with mental health. And what was fascinating when I went through that training was realizing supplements can harm you. They really can. And the same supplement that can benefit one person can harm another.
That's true. How do you know then what you need to have, right? Like, you have to do test?
It's a combination of symptoms and testing.
Okay.
And sometimes some trial and error.
Yeah.
And trial and error is valid.
Because I know, for example, I've heard of a person who, for example, has been taking, say 15 different pills. Maybe you need 3 of this one, 4 of that one. And that's actually caused a bit of a negative effect because I think it just becomes too much.
I think that the other danger that we get into when we're going into this highly focused on supplements world is that people think that supplements are replacements.
Yes.
And I always try and remind them that they're literally what they're called.
Yes.
They are supplemental to a foundation of a healthy diet and some changes in lifestyle that can be positive, right? We need to focus on sleep. Can supplements in sometimes support sleep? Yes, but not on their own.
Yeah.
Right? You can take a high dose of melatonin, a high dose of magnesium and zinc. If you were scrolling on your phone until 11 p.m., your sleep will be disrupted.
This is so true.
Right.
Very, very true. Yeah, nothing. Obviously, you can't replace a healthy, active lifestyle. You can't. Like, all these things are add-ons. They're great, but they're not replacing that at all. So, at Reborn, you do some of like the most high-tech treatments available when it comes to like biohacking, when it comes to longevity. Talk us through what type of treatments do you really offer, and would everyone be suitable for them, or is it very much a bespoke approach?
So it's bespoke. That's kind of the whole nature of the approach, is that we don't want to do this one size fits all model, right? It's about, coming in through the door, doing some testing, some diagnostics appropriate for you, right? Appropriate to what you're coming in for. And then seeing various different practitioners or doing various different treatments according to really the package that we see for you. And I think a really big component of what we do and of functional medicine in general is getting to know you.
Yeah.
Right? For me, the first consultation, is not just about sending you home with a dietary plan and a list of supplements and some guidelines on your activity, right? We talked about it at the very beginning. What does food mean for you? What was your childhood like? What's your relationship with your parents? Do you have community?
Yeah.
Do you get into nature? Do you have joy in your life?
Yeah. And I think a lot of people living in London, it's a very, very hectic place.
So difficult.
Pollution as well, which causes inflammation in the body as well. So it's hard, right?
It's a bit hard.
Compared to, let's say, if you're living out in the country, you're outside, you've got fresh air. It's very, very different to when you live in the city. The 2 different ways that can respond to your body, for sure.
And the anonymity, right? The anonymity of living in a big city, the fact that we don't have that village vibe anymore, that community. I mean, that you can go to the same coffee shop 20 times and not 20 times, for 5 years. This has happened to me in my neighborhood. And I'm like, why is nobody asking me how I am?
Wow.
Did anyone notice I've been gone? Right?
It is crazy when you think about it.
It is. It's nuts.
Yeah. And that community spirit is actually so important.
It's crucial.
To aging, to lifestyle.
It's the number one thing when we're looking at the blue zones and where people live the longest. It's community.
Yeah.
Loneliness is a killer.
Yeah. So if you had to say a certain, I guess it's difficult. You can't just pick a certain diet that you think is the best or whatever. But I've always looked at the Mediterranean diet, right? Which, and I've just remembered because you're touching on different areas where people live longer, right?
Yeah.
If you go to Italy, for example, they are outdoors. They're playing sports. They're having oils, fresh fish, fresh meats, fresh vegetables. It's all really fresh. And they are living a really long, healthy, happy life.
Yeah, and they're drinking, by the way, and they're staying up late. And, in one of these places, one of these blue zones, right, where they live the longest I'm married to a Greek man, right? So it's an island called Ikaria.
Yeah.
And in Ikaria, they're actually known by all the Greeks to be a little cuckoo and nocturnal.
Really?
Yeah, so they basically stay up most of the night, kind of drinking wine, playing cards and everything.
Wow.
This is the island where people live the longest.
Okay. Yeah.
Right, one of the islands where people live the longest. So we can set all of these rules for longevity, right? Yeah. Sleep the 8 hours a night, eat vegetables and clean foods, and all of that. But at the end of the day, how much does happiness and connection actually contribute to Our health span.
Sheer health span, 100%.
Everything.
It's a key component, right? So without that, there's no point really doing well, I mean, look, there's a benefit, but you're not going to get the full benefit without looking at everything as a whole.
Society, the society that unfortunately, we have found ourselves like to be living in, and that's where I do think a change is coming. I do think Gen Z,
yes.
has a completely different approach than, for example, my generation, right? Or my partners. Like, they drink a lot less. They're so much more about healthy nutrition, so much more awareness on mental health.
Yeah.
Right? So much more women's health focused, which finally, people are talking about it.
It's important as well. So going back to Reborn.
Sustainability, connection with nature,
100%.
Also way more,
That's important.
Crucial.
Really important.
We are not separate from the world that we're living in.
So when I was in Reborn last time, she was telling me about this procedure you can have, right, where, am I right in thinking it takes like your blood, does it re-oxygenate?
EBO2.
Yeah. So, right, it's not like blood washing, right, but it kind of is, right?
Yeah.
What is it, and what are the benefits?
Oh gosh. I mean, a lot of these longevity interventions, and I have to say, I'm not the one performing them, so I'm more of like the bread and butter go-to, right? Like, you come to me for the bread and butter.
Because I was like, what, really?
And I think that that's all really great, but it's not really great in isolation, right?
Yeah, it's an added thing.
It's an added thing that you can do, which has just been shown that oxygen, right? Oxygen can be a very powerful molecule as an antioxidant.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? And so basically shooting oxygen into our blood has these antioxidant properties.
Cool.
Right? And these benefits. But there are several different ways of doing it. There's also ozone therapy, which
like
is
hyperbaric
oxygen chambers and so on. So these kind of what we call advanced longevity treatments are very cool. And that's where you're seeing kind of, the Brian Johnsons of the world. And the celebrities are getting into that world, which I think is awesome, totally. For a boost. I'm also into it and into infrared saunas and so on. But I, personally, my approach is much more about like, if you ask me, me about like my personal luxury, I'm like, just get me isolated in nature and like away from my phone.
It's such a simple thing that I think that we forget how important that is, because yes, there's cryo chambers, ice plunges, and that we can do infrared saunas, red light therapy, you name it. There's so many gadgets, I guess, and technological advancements of things we can do, but that comes down to money, and it comes down to affordability, because a lot of people can't afford to go for these types of treatments, which, if they can do some basic things to extend their health span, like, that is literally the most simple thing that you can do every single day. It's a change that you can make without a problem.
Definitely. And again, these are advanced treatments, right? And so let's say you are in London and you don't have access to, gorgeous sunshine or a cold plunge in a beautiful natural lake, right?
Yeah. This is what you can do.
Right. Or what they do, when my best friend lives in Denmark, and literally, they just go to the beach in the middle of winter and then they go to the sauna right afterwards, right? Exactly. So it's cold plunge followed by sauna. And I'm like, I would love to do that in nature, but my option is to go to, repost gym and like do cryo and then infrared. You do what you can.
100% to the environment that you're living in as well is really important. But even if you look at the just touching on the pandemic, you look at the COVID numbers and look at the countries that had the least amount of cases. It was a lot of the Nordic countries as well that were literally sauna. They were living, eating, like healthy food, healthy fishes, all of this. And the sauna plays a big impact.
Huge, because it redirects. I mean, if you think about the blood flow, right? Like, and how much oxygen is going to your brain. I mean, saunas have been linked to reduced rates of Alzheimer's, of depression. But it's the whole lifestyle, as you've said, right? Yeah. That my friend who I know there, she goes with her friends, her girlfriends, once a week. Again, community.
Yeah.
They leave the kids.
Yeah, it's just a different activity to do, I guess. Like, you can't really do that. You could go to Reborn, I suppose, with your friends and do a similar thing there. But being outdoors is obviously really, really
But even, these treatments make you feel cared for. So you do what you can.
Yeah, definitely. So where do you think is next, like, when it comes to regenerative medicine? Obviously, Reborn has got so many different really, really cool technologies that are now as current as you can get. I have no doubt that it's going to develop even more over the next 5 to 10 years because that's the way the technology develops. Where do you think it's going to go, though?
So in terms of more of these medical therapies, I am particularly excited about peptides.
Okay.
Right? Because right now we're thinking about them more as, the GLPs and the polynucleotides, but there's so many different peptides that are in development for various different conditions.
So I've heard about peptides that are used for the skin and used for anti-aging benefits in the skin. Are you saying that they can be used in other areas?
Yeah, definitely different peptides. So a peptide basically means that it's like a cut down protein in some ways, right? And these are messenger molecules in our bodies, and different peptides, different messenger molecules can be used for different indications. So for example, joint pain, right? So some are being developed to see if actually we can heal joints by using some of these messenger molecules to promote your body's own healing. Cool. Another exciting field, the stem cells.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, so exciting. Unfortunately, insanely expensive.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? But so exciting what stem cells appear to be doing. And what's so exciting about these new technologies is that it's focusing on helping your body heal itself.
Yeah.
Right? And what's even more exciting about it is that they go hand in hand with what I call the foundation, is that they work better if you're also putting in these nutrition and lifestyle interventions.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah, it's not like one or the other.
It's not one or the other, it's that it goes together.
Do you focus a lot on the role of like the mitochondria then when you're chatting to or giving advice to patients? Do you focus on the integral part that mitochondria plays? The reason I mention that is because people often used to just think the mitochondria, all it is the powerhouse of your cell, but there's a lot more research coming out now that's showing what a vital role the mitochondria plays when it comes to aging. And we're finding out more that mitochondria in the body plays a crucial role. It's not just the power bank to your cell. You need to keep that as healthy as possible. So do you place a lot of your focus on mitochondrial health?
Definitely, 100%. I will just say that the same interventions that I will put into place to improve mitochondrial health are interventions that I would want to put into place to improve every aspect of health, right? Because the mitochondria are in all the cells of your body, right? So it is linked to it's linked to mental health, it's linked to gut health, it's linked to hormonal health. These are not systems in isolation, right? It's about rebalancing the entire system. And if we rebalance the gut, if we rebalance the hormones, the mitochondria will also get a boost as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So again, we hyper focus, and that's what I like about, again, the Chinese medicine, the Ayurveda. Can we talk more about balancing? Can we talk more about getting things back into harmony?
Yeah, whereas I think Western medicine, it does focus more on correcting things as opposed
to systems in isolation, right? Look at the specialties, right? We have the cardiologist, we have the endocrinologist, it's hormones.
The human body into compartments.
Into compartments, and unfortunately, we're not
in
compartments.
Everything communicates.
It's connected.
It's a network of communication, basically.
That's the idea, frankly, at Reborn. That is the idea, is that it's interconnected. So we don't want it to be the kind of thing where, you get sent to a cardiologist for your heart problems, the endocrinologist for your diabetes or high blood sugar, right? The nephrologist for your renal problems. Like, these people, we all need to be talking to each other and have people who understand how all of these are related.
Absolutely. Giving that education to the patient as well. Have you seen any trends then that patients have maybe come in and they've seen a certain trend online, or their friends told them about something and you're like, whoa, that's completely nuts? Is there any trends that you're like, no?
I mean, currently my pet peeve, which I'm going to get so much backlash on, I'm really pet peeving right now on this high protein movement.
Okay, that's a good thing you touched on that. Yeah. Go ahead. Cool.
I'm just pet peeving on it because it's just like, it was low it was low fat, then it was low sugar, and now we're all about the high protein, and everybody's like lifting weights and taking their protein supplement, and the number of emails I have about which protein supplement should I take, and I just want to scream. I'm like, there is not, can we stop talking about fats, carbs, proteins, and calories, and can we talk about food, please, right? A protein supplement is still a processed food, right?
Yes. And I've seen there's this app that you can actually get where you can like scan the foods like in the supermarket, and it'll tell you basically how toxic the food is, or what it is.
I know.
The protein bars, they score like a 0 out of 100 because it's processed food.
It's total processed food.
So how is that any better to other types of processed food?
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not. It's just really misleading, and it's really, really money making, right? For the industry.
I guess people eat protein because obviously it's low fat. It fills you up.
Yeah.
That's typically lean protein when you eat lean protein. So would you just be better just eating, let's say, literally like a chicken breast or so, eating something like fresh, like in that sense?
So you are always better off when you are eating foods that don't have ingredient labels, right? Yeah. When you're eating real foods that come from nature, or that indeed, if it's a chicken, I will say, like if it's a chicken that comes from the farmer's market and is organic and has been free range and hasn't been pumped with hormones and is 5 times the size that it should be, right? Then yes, but even just generally, like going back to the basics, right? Do I think that you will be in better health if you're focusing on eating foods without ingredients? Yes.
You know what? I actually I get like the cooked meats, like the cooked chicken, but I get it from the butchers, and it tastes so different to the stuff that you'll get in the supermarket. Again, it's like what I said about the potatoes.
Yeah.
They are 2 different foods. Mm-hmm. Like the chickens, you'll get the ready cooked chickens in the supermarket. There's a lot of water that always comes out of it. Whereas the one in the butchers isn't like that whatsoever. It tastes like so different.
Totally. And just going back to kind of the whole protein idea, I know that there was this huge vegan movement that came in. And again, I'm not black and white about anything. There are nuances with every movement. I think the really positive side of the vegan movement was that when vegan was done in a healthier way, it put a lot more emphasis on veggies.
Yes.
Veggies and fruit and plants. And that was really beautiful. But then the processed stuff, but then you could be vegan and be really unhealthy. And, when you looked at the ingredients of these vegan burgers, I was like, oh my God, just eat a regular burger, for God's sake. At least there's one ingredient.
Literally. It's so true. Yeah, so when the focus was on like beans, it was on veg, these things. They're all very natural.
And that's why you can be a very healthy vegan, and you can also be in a very unhealthy vegan. The same goes for a carnivore, right? Like
100%. It's the food industry. It's a billion pound industry. So as soon as they see something, they'll put like meat-free burgers, meat-free sausages, all of this stuff, and it's like that is still processed.
But now we're in the counter. So this movement is actually the other side, right? Because we have to go from one extreme to another, right? We went from low fat, then everyone needed the high fat, right? And the low sugar, right? And then everyone became crazy about sugar, right? So much so that fruit is now terrible for you. Right? And now we're in this movement where it was all about vegan. All of these famous people are going vegan. And then now people are like, well, vegan's not that great. Yeah. And so everyone's talking about, you need to, protein. Where's my protein supplement? Should I take this supplement or this supplement? I'm like, relax.
Yeah.
Like, can we, again, if we just change the conversation from the macros.
Yes, into the food.
Into the foods. We will all be better off.
Exactly.
But that's not profitable.
No, it's not. It's literally as simple as just eat a healthy, balanced diet. Like, that is what it comes down to, right?
Eat foods without ingredient labels. Eat foods that don't come in packaging.
Okay. Yeah. That's a really good take home for people. Like, because that's simple. That doesn't even overcomplicate things. So yeah, no, it's simple. What about things like frozen? Because you can buy frozen vegetables, right? And you can buy fresh vegetables. Is there a difference between them? Is there one that you would recommend is more nutritious maybe than the other, or is either okay? So
I would say depending on where you are in your health journey.
Okay.
Right? And so that's where, again, it's not a one size fits all. It's about meeting people where they're at. Right? So If it's not possible to get organic, fresh vegetables, let's say from the farmer's market, but you can find some really lovely frozen organic raspberries or frozen organic spinach, I would frankly rather you get that than to get, as I said, like the massively pesticide sprayed raspberries that have been on display for 3 weeks, or the non-organic spinach, which again is known to be one of the foods with the highest amount of pesticides.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, of course, if you could pick your spinach from your backyard, yes, and it's fresh, yes, that has tons of amazing vitamins, right?
Exactly.
But frozen spinach also retains vitamins very well.
Okay. Yeah, so it depends.
It depends.
What you can access.
Exactly.
Yeah. Is there one misleading headline about nutrition that you would just like to address?
I mean, I'm going to sound like a broken record here. It's just the macros, like the fat, the protein, the carbs, the calories. Like, can we please stop?
Yeah, valid point. So I'm going to give you some like a wellness treatments, right? And then you just need to like rank them into like 1 to 5.
Okay.
1 being like what you think is the best, and then 5 being further down. Not saying that it's not good, but just 5 being further down the ladder. So I'll give you a few things and then you just rank them 1 to 5.
Okay.
Saunas.
3.
Okay. NAD drips.
4.
Okay. Red light therapy.
4. I mean, can I double down? 5, 4, 3.
Cryo chambers or any
Oh
form
my
of like
gosh.
an ice bath.
Okay, 3. I just keep thinking something that I really.
It's gonna be better.
Yeah.
Hyperbaric oxygen chamber.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I need to change everything
Right, so we've
around.
got them all now, so they're all 5. Right?
Okay. So should we do it again?
Should we rank them?
Yeah,
down?
let's
So,
do it again.
Like cryo chambers, where would you put them on a scale of like 1 to 5?
Okay. 3.
Okay. Hyperbaric oxygen.
4.
Okay. Red light therapy.
2.
NAD drips.
5.
Saunas.
1.
Yes, but again, I'm on
There we
that.
go. There we go.
That's a great way of doing it. Okay, so just to summarize, what are 3 words that sum up longevity to you?
Joy. Connection. Nature.
Fantastic. If you weren't doing functional medicine, what would you be doing?
I'd be a dancer.
Outside in the nature.
It's out in nature.
Nice outdoors.
I don't know. So freeing. Ballet, probably.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
It keeps you grounded. Definitely, it's great. Dr. Zia, thank you so much for being such a
Thank
great
you.
guest. That was, I mean, I think we could definitely do a part 2 because you talk about so much and fit so much into that one time frame. So no, it's so interesting. If people want to connect with you, if they want to, book for a consultation, how can they do that?
Probably the best would be through Reborn.
Yep.
You can connect with my very, very embarrassing Instagram page, which I was telling you earlier. I'm pretty terrible at social media. My partner calls me like a disgrace to...
Fair play to you. I'm actually very proud of you for not...
A disgrace to my generation. He's just like, how can you... He's like, aren't you supposed to be tech savvy? I'm like, I can't handle it.
It's fair enough.
Yeah. But you can connect with me there, even though I have like 1 post. Yeah.
It's okay. You'll still reply.
Exactly.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much.